and welcome back to New Lines' Crime Beat Conversations. I'm your host, Rafaela Lipschitz, and today I'm very excited to be joined by Dr. Guadalupe Correa-Cabrera. Guadalupe is a professor at George Mason University's School of Government and Policy and is the co-director of their Terrorism, Transnational Crime and Corruption Center. Fuel theft has been an enormously profitable enterprise in Mexico known as huachicol, and last year is thought to have cost the state-run oil company Pemex around $1 billion. We're also increasingly seeing cartels move to cross-border fuel smuggling between the US and Mexico. And today, Guadalupe and I are going to chat about what this trade looks like, what the logistics of it are, how it compares to drug trafficking operations, and what we can expect in the future. Thanks so much for joining me, Guadalupe.
Thank you very much for your invitation.
How deeply embedded is illicit fuel in the Mexican market?
Illicit fuel is as any other illicit activity, we don't really have data that can tell us exactly the dynamics of what is going on, and the actors, and maybe the dimensions of the involvement of different actors. Since the beginning of this century, fuel theft has expanded as an illicit activity. So, fuel theft and hydrocarbon theft and this illicit industry is extremely relevant. It's extremely important, and it has expanded its capacity and the modalities.
Why have we seen this shift from what's known as huachicol, more traditional sort of tapping of oil pipelines, to now cross-border fuel smuggling operations between the US and Mexican border?
Well, we are talking about illicit networks that become more complex as time goes by. And this complexity this complexity has to do with enforcement and has to do with capacity, more technology, and involvement of more actors. Since we are talking about a network that has been successful in doing what they have to do, we have we have crude oil, we have some hydrocarbons going to the United States and returning, being processed. So that process takes place, fuels are produced, diesel, gasoline, and they are taken back to Mexico in different forms. Like the fiscal huachicol is the return or the arrival of diesel and gasoline to Mexico without paying taxes, because they arrive as if they were different products. That has been another modality, and that has been an expansion of the network and the activities of these complex, again, illicit network. This has had to do with capacity, better transportation, the involvement of members of the network that sometimes have to do with law enforcement or are part of the companies themselves. So those networks, without being stopped, they become more capable. And this is why we see this complexity. We were talking about so-called cartels supposedly stealing crude oil or stealing fuel and selling it in the local markets, then taking them to the United States. So in this case, it's a network that is very complex, that is becoming more complex because of the involvement of new actors, the corruption on both sides of the border, the political protection of the different actors that participate in the activity, and the involvement of new actors. And we're talking about here customs, who are managing customs. That's another actor that we need to take into consideration. The Ministry of Defense, the Secretariat of Defense of Mexico, I'm talking about the Marines and the National Guard and the Mexican Army, are now in charge of managing Mexican customs. So there is allegedly some involvement, and some corrupt actors of these federal agencies are also involved here.
I'm curious about the logistics of the smuggling. Are we between the US and Mexico? Are we seeing this happen through ships? Are we seeing this happen overland, through trucks, a bit of both, or are we unable to tell yet?
We have been seeing a bit of both because of the operations against fuel theft or hydrocarbon theft, against huachicol. We know that there's some operations, and I'm talking about customs, but I should be talking about ports too. We're talking about ships and we're talking about the transportation in pipes. So we're talking about some components of this network. And when we talk about networks, we cannot say, okay, this is the criminal organization, or this is kind of like the illicit enterprise that has like a leader, that specific leader, right? We're talking about different parts of the network. Some of them utilize ships to to return the diesel or to bring the diesel into Mexico and the gasoline without paying taxes. But also we're talking about pipes that transport gas condensate or transport other derivatives from oil to the United States. So we're talking about activities that go north to south and south to north in the sea or by land. So there is a little bit of both because of these operations, and we understand that there's no one single leader of these operations that cross the whole border or utilizes ports, the different ports of Mexico, and also, probably United States. We see more what happens on the Mexican side. The investigations have been focused on what happens on the Mexican side, the involvement of so-called drug cartels or criminal organizations that are connected with these activities, than what really is happening on the U.S. side of the border, and involvement of also corrupt authorities on the U.S. side of the border, and also U.S. companies, right? Who are the U.S. companies that are refining? Do they know that their fuel and the diesel are going to come to Mexico? Do they know this, or they just do what they do, and they have no understanding, they have no connection with the consumers? So we see a little bit of both, and we need more information because this is a huge industry that involves multiple actors.
Guadalupe, thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Crime Beat Conversations. Please be sure to stay tuned for more and to check out New Lines Institute's work, which will be linked below. Thanks, everyone.